parts that make me who I am. So there's leadership, creativity, I'm people-centric, solutions, innovation. I'm very much into strategy, and I'm a designer. And so at my core, I am multiple things, but for sake of this webinar and what we're trying to achieve, I am a matchmaker. So I'm going to be asking us a few questions about our businesses. You can shout out the answer, you can type in the chat, or you can just like reflect on these if you have the answer. So as your matchmaker for today, we're going to be pairing your company with your clients or your product with your clients. So for example, if you can think about this, do you have an actual need? Is there an actual need for your company, for your brand, or did you invent one? So that's just something to think about. So you can interact if you'd like, or you can also just think about it silently. Either works. So what I mean is, did you do some research in the market? There's something called oversaturation, and there's something called a blue ocean. A blue ocean exists, or is a phenomena where a need exists, but there's not much solutions in that aspect. For example, off the top of my head, we do not have flying cars just yet. So that's the blue ocean. Now, is there a need for flying cars? Maybe in New York City where there's a lot of traffic, but I would have to do research to determine that fact. So what we'd have to do is interview a bunch of commuters, interview the people who live in New York City, actually make an MVP, test it out. So there's a whole, research process that goes into that, into determining whether there's a need, whether there's a market, and whether it's viable. The next question would be, do we have clients? Does this potential lady or man, depending on who you're trying to matchmake here, remember, we're thinking about this like we're trying to pair two people and they need to be compatible. Okay, so maybe there's a need. Do I have clients? You can have the answer to that question could be yes, and the answer could also be no. What do I mean? If you've determined that 5 people want flying cars in New York City, is that worth the amount of money that's going to go into research and development? Is that worth the amount of money that's going to go into even developing a baseline MVP? Hi, Femi, thank you for joining us. Is that worth it? If it's not, maybe not. But if you had a market of, if you did your TAM, SAM, and SOM, and you realize, okay, we have like at least 200 million people who could, buy this product, this flying car, or who would be willing to try it out, then there's a case for that. So the first question is, do I have a market? And you cannot answer that yourself. The data, the statistics will have to tell you, right? Remember, we're talking about, is my brand optimized? Because at the end of this conversation, or maybe subsequent conversations, or perhaps when you go back and do the research, you might determine of your own volition that I might need to pivot, or I might need to adjust or restate my brand strategy or my brand statement or my company statement, right? So the next question is, okay, let's say you have clients. They're not 5 people in New York who just want to try out a flying car because it's cool, but you've determined there's a large market for this, or at least a market big enough. The next question would be, who are these clients? Now, there's something in the marketing world called target personas, target audience. All of this is, research and marketing and development. Also, by the way, if at any point in time anyone has a question, please feel free to type it in the chats, right? Okay, so who are these clients? You find that you can either make different bubbles for different typifications, or it could be an actual exact person. I'm thinking right now of a product like hearing aids. That's a product that is for a specific audience, right? People who are not very, they don't hear as well. Maybe you're hard of hearing, maybe they were born deaf. So that's a specific audience. Now, are you just going to make hearing aids without, any research or any way to make your product stand out? What is going to make your hearing aids different from the other 10 people who existed before? Now you can start to dress up. So you can decide preliminary, I want to only target the wealthy non-hearing people, the wealthy non-hearing demographic, or I want to target people who can't afford hearing aids. I want to make sure that my business is serving a higher purpose. I don't want it to be profit-centered. Now, when you start thinking about these things for your company, for your product, or for your brand, you start to realize, okay, this is developing into a total human being. this is developing into something that is beyond just, I do this, come and buy it. Because I love to break it to you, but people do not like to be sold to. People do not buy brands. But let me not get ahead of myself here. Okay, let me take a breather. Any questions so far? Anyone want to shout out anything, or is anything I said so far maybe confusing that you would like clarification on? Okay, I'm going to take that as an affirmative. Okay, Runia, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you so much. This is very interesting. I was just gonna ask, like, for people wanting to.
Oh, now we can't hear you. Okay, I think we lost her. So we're going to give her some time to come back and hopefully she's able to ask her questions, but I'm going to proceed because we are ticking on time. All right, so the next question is, how am I going to stand out? So this is now how you differentiate your brand or your product or your company from the other people who are producing the exact same thing. So you can see even just simple questions like, who do I want to reach? It will help, the understanding of your client will help you position, because guess what? You cannot change the clients. You cannot change the people. The only thing that's going to be doing the changing is you, in a sense. So your brand or your product or your service or how they stand out, that's the only thing that's going to be able to change. So you have to make it such that it's a perfect match for the client that you're going after. And in your preliminary research, you could determine, like, actually, there's a lot of expensive hearing aids in the market. I don't think that I want to get into that because that's a bloody red ocean. It's oversaturated. But nobody's innovating or creating for, the people who don't have as much access to resources or money. I want to enter that. Now you have to start understanding who are these people who can't really afford my product. In understanding them, you would be able to reflect the identity and the personality of a brand that they would identify with. Brunia, are you able to speak now to ask your question?
Yes, it's fine. You can continue. I'll ask it at the end just in case you answer.
Okay, awesome. Excellent. So, we're talking about questions right now. The next is my company, is my product and my service speaking their language? Now we're into tone of voice and personality once again. So we've identified, okay, I don't want to produce really expensive hearing aids. I want to, create and innovate for the people who don't have access to resources. How do they speak? How do they understand language? So think of a country like Nigeria. I think probably a good chunk of us here are Nigerian. If I wanted to innovate for lack of a better word, like the lower class, I cannot be speaking Queen's English. It will not communicate to them. In fact, I would probably off-put them. I've had a lot of experiences where I would be in a car with my parents and we get into an area where there's maybe like police on the road, or like, they're talking to people who are on the streets and they start speaking pidgin, right? Because that's how they understand. If you approach these people speaking English, dressed really nicely, you sort of sometimes seem like a threat. So you have to kind of understand who you're speaking to and then come down to their level. So that kind of language would then reflect or should reflect in your branding. If you are doing the opposite, it's showing that you don't understand your clients and you're probably not going to connect with them. So stuff like this, again, is in preliminary stages. Who is your client? Are you speaking their language? As opposed to, you want to sell a Porsche to somebody and you're speaking pidgin, like, are you, like, it's not adding up. You need to understand your client and you need to speak their language. So at this point, because many of us here who signed up for this already have existing businesses, so these are the questions you have to start asking yourself. Who is my audience? Who are they in terms of the target personas? Because they probably are more than one person. Am I speaking their language? And of course, this is after determining that you actually have a market, you actually have clients, and people actually have a need for this. You're not innovating for yourself unless you're the one who's gonna, give you your bottom line. You're not innovating for yourself. Just because an idea is super nice and super cool does not make it viable. That's why more than 70% of startups and businesses fail even before they even finish out the first year. Because if you don't have a market for it, you're going to end up burning money that you shouldn't have. All right, so we already talked about the market size. Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of actual branding, right? So I have another question as your matchmaker here. Are you disrupting or meeting a new need? Now, I personally do not think some of my other colleagues in the industry have a different opinion, but I do not personally think that everyone can be a disruptor. I think disruptions are more interesting in the age that we are in because I mean, what can you think of? It probably exists. I was talking about flying cars earlier. I'm pretty sure Elon Musk is somewhere in R&D, or maybe even Jeff Bezos has like a flying car in, MVP stage and it's ready to go and it's ready to be tested out. So I don't think everyone can be a disruptor, but I do think that your branding and your positioning can be disruptive. I think that you can stand out with the way that people interact and perceive your brand. Up to date, I am yet to find a company who did what Apple did with their Be Different campaign. I think Apple is a close second. Sorry, not Apple. I think Nike is a close second in terms of like the positioning and the language. See, guys, Nike is not selling any special kind of shoes. Like it's made in China alongside Adidas. In fact, Shein shoes are made in China. It's probably the same hands that are making the shoes, but you can see that these brands are able to stand out because of their disruptive positioning. This is now getting into branding, right? I just wanted to give us some preliminary ideas because your branding can be excellent, but if you do not have a market for it, it's not going to work. So they have to go in tandem, hand in hand, working out together. So another question I have is, how are you standing out and are you presentable? And who are your competitors? Competitive analysis is something that a lot of business owners do not do. One of the questions I asked someone that I pitched to I think 2 weeks ago was, who are your competitors? And the answer was, we don't have any. Yeah, no, that means you haven't done your research. Even if it's indirect, for example, let me think about something completely random. Headphones. If you're a headphone company, your competitors are not just other headphone companies. Your competitors are the people in the entertainment industry. The music industry is your competitor. So because why do I say this? If Spotify or Apple Music, which technically, I mean, Beats by Dre is sort of like an affiliate with like Apple Music, right? But if Spotify came up with headphones today, they would have such a chunk of the market because of how much of the entertainment industry is in their grasp. So you have to be innovating with those kinds of things in mind. If you're making telephones, your industry is not the telephone industry. Your industry is the communications industry. So when you're doing your competitive analysis, you're not just looking at other phone makers, you're looking at people who are in the communications industry. That explains why those people, the people who had the market with the landlines, they didn't make the next Apple. They didn't make the next Android, the Galaxy Z Flip. Why didn't they innovate? Why didn't they go ahead? Why didn't they progress? Because they thought that their market was the small bubble that they were in. That's not true. You have to think beyond. So for us here who are, I'm trying to remember someone's company who's here. Can somebody give me the name and the industry of their company? Someone who's present right here. Could you just shout it out for me? Are we shy? Femi, what's your company? What's the name of your company? Wait, am I being heard?
Um,
Oh, okay.
uh, yeah. I'm actually a freelancer. I'm in graphics design. I do graphics design.
Okay, beautiful. So you're a graphic designer. So
Yeah.
technically, the service is yourself, and the service slash company or product that the services you offer, right? If you're probably thinking about competitors, it would be tempting. I'm not saying that you do this, but for most people, it'd be tempting to think that other freelancers are your competitors, but that's not true. Your competitors are every branding agency that exists on the planet. Every Canva is your competitor, actually. ChatGPT is your competitor. Um, DALL-E, the one that produces images, like any generative AI system is your competitor. So when you think that large and you're thinking, how do I stand out? You're able to actually have a more holistic approach to, standing out and determining the branding of your company or of your services or of yourself, right? Because you're thinking holistically and you're, having a broad sense and idea of, how to really put yourself out there in a way that appeals to your audience. All right. So those are some of my matchmaking questions. So hopefully this gets the juices running in your company, in your product, in your service, whatever the case may be, what have you. You're able to think about these questions. Of course, it's a lot more. These are just a few. And I made sure to do this because we can't really talk about branding, like I said earlier, if there's not a need for your product. You can have the most beautiful logos, most beautiful colors, but if only 5 people need your products, there's really nothing you can do about that. All right, so I would like to get into branding so we can take some questions at the end really quickly. A lot of people think that branding is a logo or the tone of the company or the colors or the typography, whatever the case may be, but that's not true. Branding is actually the unified human being. It's not one arm or one leg. The heart could be color, the kidney could be socials. I don't know what part of the body that is. I think I know what it is. Never mind. It could be the name of your company. The heart could be the logo. It's different parts, right? But all of these parts are not branding. Branding is the holistic center of you. The holistic center of everything put together is branding, because branding is not just how something looks. Branding is a feeling. The companies in this world today that are doing exceptional and that are doing a great job, something is consistent with each and every one of them. They don't sell you products. They don't sell you a service. They're selling you a feeling. Let me think about Cash App. Cash App is culture. Cash App sells you like you're like an 8 kids. When they say Cash App me, what's your cash? What's your Cash App? It's a feeling. It's not just about money. If it was just about money, we'd be using Venmo or PayPal or whatever. Why do people prefer Cash App? Apart from the fact that it works and it's effective, right? And of course, they were disruptive with their model. Again, why we talked about the first part of everything we talked about. There's a market, there's a need, there is cause, there's a blue ocean, et cetera, et cetera. Then they were able to distinguish themselves with their branding in that somebody would much prefer, Gen Z would much prefer to use Cash App than PayPal or Venmo, even though technically it's the same business model, like it achieves the same thing. So I want us to remember when you're approaching your marketing team or your branding team in terms of like optimizing your branding, remember that you're not looking to hire a logo creator. You're not looking to hire a what else? The graphic designer. No shade, Femi. That's not who you're looking for. You're looking for someone who speaks branding, and all of these things are a facet of that, right? Like the next thing I was talking about, I already talked about this earlier, but interestingly enough, people hate advertising. Show of hands. Okay, you guys are probably not gonna respond to me quickly enough, but I'm going to assume anyways. If you're on Spotify, if you're on YouTube, if you're on whatever the case may be, and an ad comes up, you roll your eyes. I do it, and I'm in advertising. Exactly. Okay, yeah, exactly. Femi's co-opting me here. I was listening to a podcast the other day. I pay for the premium version of Spotify, so I don't have interruptions. But on the podcast, there were ads, and I was like, what the heck is this? Scroll. Like, who has seen that meme where it's like, anytime I think about, anytime I'm watching a podcast where the girl is like, as a female, doom, you swipe up really, really quickly. Nobody loves to be sold to. So remove your mind from, I'm selling a product. No, you're not. No, you're not. Remove your mind from selling a service. No, you're not. No, you're not. That's not what you're doing. You're selling a feeling. Coca-Cola has, I don't even know what word to use. They have capitalized on this. Coke is not a drink. Coke is joy. Coke is happiness. Coke is life is good. That's what they're selling to you. And that's why, When you walk into a store, you're like, yeah, Coke, they're selling friendship, they're selling freedom, they're selling culture. They're not selling your products. And that's why their marketing is effective. When you're able to think like this, you're able to look at your brand, like, in the earlier parts of this, webinar, we talked about the matchmaking thing. You're able to think more holistically, like, okay, what do I want my audience to feel? More importantly, what does my audience want to feel? For example, if I'm targeting Hermes, right? Hermes as a company, they're not selling to the regular guy. They're selling to the upper echelon of society, at least for the most part, right? So these people, when I'm starting to do my research into who the target audience are, they are multimillionaires, they are business owners, they are well-to-do people, and probably what each and every one of them want is just to relax because they probably work really hard every day, or they probably don't work if you're a stay-at-home mom, for example, or a trophy wife. So I'm understanding these two bits, but something that meets in the middle is they love relaxation. So when I'm designing my store as an Amers owner, I'm going to put that into consideration. I'm probably going to have wine to offer them. Probably going to have couches where they can relax. I'm probably going to put a massage, machine somewhere, or even have a spa inside the office. If I'm doing an activation as an Amers owner, I'm probably going to have like maybe skincare packages for the clients who come in. All of these ideas make sense because I understand my audience. Now, if you are an Amers owner and you just think that I'm going to slap on a logo, I'm going to slap on typography, and you're not even thinking about what kind of fonts speak wealth, because like words mean things. Words are very visual. The kind of language you use in your advertising evokes feelings. When we say something is grunge, it means that it's nitty gritty. That's not going to fit for a brand like Hermes. When we talk about like the fashion world, something you notice in the kind of fonts that they use is like really thin and dainty and slender fonts, because all of these things have meaning. And you need to make sure that whatever meaning and whatever personality your service, your brand, your product is speaking is the language that your audience, the clients, the buyer, the whatever have you, is the language they want to understand and they want to hear. So we're not selling anything at all. So just like to do like a really quick exercise with this, a brand like Nike, what would you say that you're selling? Not the products. I'm talking about the feelings that they evoke. I mean, we kind of talked about this a little earlier. So this is a chance for us to see if we can remember. Nike, what words come to your mind when you think of Nike? Even the tagline is like,
Just do it. Just do
yeah,
it.
exactly. Okay, even their tagline is like right in the alley of the feelings that they're selling. So who can think of it? Athletic success. Adora says athletic success. Exactly. If you wear Nikes, you're going to run faster. But it's actually crazy. This thing is like, so let me tell you, advertisers are like low-key psychologists because it's really human.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really human psyche. I even believe when I used to run track in high school, I would not wear anything. I'm talking about my cleats. I would not wear anything that wasn't Nike because for some reason I think I'll be faster. Why is this so? It's because they've sold you the feeling of, like Adora said, athletic success. They're selling you like disrupt, change your world. You can do it. Like, go out and win the whole nation. We're behind you. Even their ads, they're putting Serena, they're putting Colin Kaepernick. It's all a game. It's all a mind game. But this is because they understood who they wanted to sell to, and they've understood what they like to hear, how they love to be communicated with. So anyone who associates with this brand associates with, wow, yeah, I'm big. I could do whatever. I could do it. I could just do it. So that's what you want to do for your company. And it's not hard. It's actually quite easy. It just has a lot of research and intentionality. And again, you're not just hiring someone who's going to make a logo for you. You're going to have to hire somebody who can strategically think about these things when it comes to, creating, pivoting or optimizing. All right. So let's move to the next one I have. I think someone wrote something else for status. Yeah, exactly. Status as well. Yeah. Let's talk about Apple. What are you buying when you buy Apple?
Innovation and excellence.
Right on the T. Right on the T. Their campaigns include people who have changed the world. They're using people like Gandhi, using people like Obama, using people like any disruptor and game changer that you can think of you would naturally associate with Apple. They even sell you something that is not true. Apple is not innovative. The last time they innovated was way before Steve Jobs, actually, left us. They're not innovative. Most of the features they have, Samsung is way ahead. In fact, their OS, I understand, is from Microsoft or something of that sort. So they're not innovators, but they've deceived the whole world. Even now that I know this, I still am like, because they're selling you status. They're selling you, oh my goodness, I'm so annoyed because like some countries, especially where you can't have like payment plans, if you have an iPhone, you're made. Like I see girls like doing very strange, extreme things just to have an Apple product, just so when you turn on your phone, you see the Apple logo. They have done such an amazing job with their marketing. What did they do? They went deep in, they understood the psyche, they created the target personas for their products. They started saying, how do we communicate to these people in such a way that when they use our product, they feel superior to everyone else? That's something else Apple does. They make you as a user feel superior. Do you know that that's big? You can't replicate that anywhere else. Like you can't beat that. You guys think of, it's actually so big if you think about it. They've successfully sold us the image that if you use my product, it means you're a better person. They're selling confidence. They're selling self-esteem. They're not selling phones. They're not selling tablets. They're not selling computers. They're selling self-esteem, and that is big. And all of it is in the language. It's in the advertising. It's in the associations. It's in the simplicity. You see, when they want to release a product, they have a family meeting. They don't just, post on the internet, oh, this is out. They have a family meeting where the CEO comes and he's giving you the demo and he's talking about all the features, and people wait. Even the subconscious thing of the Apple Store always having a line. You know that thing is engineered. They have, anytime a new Apple product is released, they make the users line up before they open the store. So as a passerby, what do you think that they're doing? Oh wow, this is so amazing that people would want to wait in line for it. I want to have that so I can have my self-esteem. They've successfully gamed everybody. And whether you know it or not, you still hear people say, God forbid, I'm a hard fan of Apple for the rest of my life, forever. So yeah, so these are the things that you want to do for your company, whatever the field may be, no matter how boring or unsellable. Even healthcare, for example, if you wanted to, even remote controls, like this, it's all about language. It's all again about branding. What feeling are you selling? And the feeling that you're selling, is this something that your target audience wants to have, wants to feel? All of this is done in the preliminary stages of research. But yeah, so tell us the healthcare one, please. Can you give me a sample of a company or your company? Let's see if we can do some brain math there in like determining things. Hi, Dr. Ayo.
No, I can't think. I don't think we know the same healthcare companies.
Oh, okay. Let's think about a product then. You know what? I watch K-drama, so I'm very into, well, I'm not very into, but like for some reason they are into like medicine and like pain patches. In fact, it's a love language at this point. If the girl that you like scrapes her knee, the guy's gonna run to the clinic and buy some pain patches and buy some medicine, and then they always have a bag. And then they're giving, I'm like, what the heck is going on? But let's talk about pain patches, for example. You could decide, I mean, who needs pain patches? Let's think athletes, children, people who work construction, because they're probably going to be in like, a lot of like labor, or just a regular person. But the regular person who's not in any of these categories that we just named is probably not going to be using it frequently. So we want to focus on these 3 boxes, right? So we've thought about construction workers, we've thought about children, and we've thought about, what was the last thing that I said? Athletes, right? Okay. So if we wanted to sell to athletes, the language would be very different from construction workers, right? But would have to do the research first of all. What sort of pains are these different people, feeling? Athletes, I know I can tell you, for example, like my heel or my back or what else, like in the gym or when I used to run track. I mean, in the gym, my hands, because of like, the weights that I'm carrying, the knee, exactly, great. So these are, pain points. So I'm now thinking, okay, so what is very important to them? Ease, for a lot of them also style, especially if they're competing. So that's something I'm going to keep in the back of my mind. Okay, so my pain patches have to look cool. Okay, for kids, the look as well, it needs to look, animated, maybe like do a partnership with Hannah Montana or Lilo and Stitch, so I'm thinking about all these different things. So that means I cannot communicate to at least all three categories. I can't communicate to all of them the same way. For construction workers, they don't care about style, they don't care about looks, they just want something that works. They want to be plain and simple. They want to be able to use your pain patch, and then whatever it is that they felt the whole day is, they don't feel it anymore. So we've identified 3 bubbles. Now I'm going to go in, I'm going to do research. And in the research, I'm finding out, how do these people want to be communicated with? I've already done some preliminary stuff, like telling you like some things that are important in terms of visual to these people, right? After I do my research and I find that, okay, there's an actual need for this, I do my market analysis. Who else is making pain patches and what is unique about them? When I do my SWOT analysis, I can see weaknesses for all of my competitors. That helps me create the opportunity for myself. So perhaps another pain patch out there is really stylish looking, but it's not very effective. My campaign could just be style that works, for example. And then I really do the work to ensure that my pain patches do not just look nice, but they actually have a higher effect or something, along those lines. For the kids, it could be like the pain patches they're very stylish, but maybe another company that's doing it doesn't make it durable enough. So maybe the designs on it, they wash off so easily. What is important for kids? They like stuff like stickers. Just right now, just sort of an idea. What about paint patches that double as temporary tattoos? So by the time you put it on, it does the work, but then as you peel it off, it leaves like a really nice, design on the thing. That could be a way that you stand out for the kids, right? For the athletes, what about like making it such that it can match up with like socks or match up with like your cleats? Like in this like phases, you're thinking, guess what? It's not just about paint patches. The paint patches side is easy. Does it work? Great. How do we market it though? How do we stand out? How do we start to communicate to these audiences that we want to sell to? How do we start to sell them a feeling? So now we can start doing association. So there comes the influencers, the people that are going to be the forefront of it. If you want to really emphasize that it works, you probably want to put healthcare professionals in front of the brand. So it's a doctor who's talking about it. If you want to do style for athletes, it's probably going to be Shaq O'Neal talking about it, or Messi talking about it. Like that's where all of these, things started coming. But that's basically branding. So it's way beyond, oh, I have a product and it actually works. Okay, no one cares. Make me care. Sell me the feeling. So this is stuff that you have to do for your brand. All right. And I believe that's it. Any questions, please? And please, I have an ask for everyone. If you've learned anything today, we're going to take questions in a little bit, but if you've learned anything today, please, shout me out, like on LinkedIn, just maybe write what you learned and then tag me. There's my LinkedIn, Deborah Onibe, or you can do it on Instagram. You can, just, type what you learned, or, feedback from the webinar and tag me on Instagram. And if you have any questions, you can book a meeting with me. Just shoot me an email. That's my email at the bottom. So so please remember to do it. That's the way that I'm, looking to spread and have more of these forward. But yes, please, I'm ready to take questions for the next 14 minutes, if any. I just thought of another example of branding that's so effective, but this might only make sense to those who are in the United States. Chase Bank. Chase sells a feeling. Chases in the echelon with like the Nikes. They're not the necessary. I think they're the best bank because I use them, but I don't think objectively they are the best bank. But they've sold us that they're the best bank because of their branding. They've sold us innovation because their app works and they're constantly innovating. I think another company that does that in West Africa is GT Bank as well. But different markets, so I don't think people care as much about that. Or probably the people who care are a lot more on the lesser side in terms of numbers. Okay, so there's no questions? Oh, are people typing in the chat? Okay, no. Okay, Runia, yeah, go ahead. Yes, I remember you had a question earlier.
Thank you so much. This isn't just, it's not a question, it's just a comment. So my background is in science. I'm a science student, and so I'm approaching my senior year. So this is very interesting just to hear from, from creative people. I'm not going to say I'm not creative, no. I'm just saying it's very interesting to hear, like even how you described how all of advertising essentially is just a mind game, selling a feeling. Like I never thought of things that way. And so I just want to say thank you. That was very good, very informative. And I will be shouting you out on my LinkedIn. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brunia. Yes, getting into the psyche of what goes on behind the scenes actually, I think, will help you in the way that you think about whatever product, brand, or service that you're going after. Of course, people really hire people to do this, but I think you also, as a business owner, you need to know about it yourself, because then you can check things and then you can ask the right questions. Thank you so much, Brunia. Anybody else? I actually have a question for you based on the few things we've talked about. Like I said, this is almost like trying to mash up a month's worth of education in like 45 minutes. So I know it's not like necessarily the most effective, but I hope to have specialized webinars in the future focusing on different parts of these things in depth. But based on the little that you've heard, is your brand optimized? I think the answer is probably going to be like, yeah, there's a lot more that I should do amongst, across the board. But I'd like to hear, like, what are some things that you're going to work on for your company, brand, or service moving forward?
Hello, I'll just speak up. So, yeah, so you can hear me. My name is Uju. Thank you so much for, this webinar. I think I joined being a bit half hour in because I was coming in from another meeting, but just echoing the similar sentiment from the last participant here. I think something for sure that I'm taking away is just really fine-tuning what the strategy is for me to sell that feeling, right? Because it's not something that you just stumble upon. Like obviously, like these brands we spoke about, Nike, Cash App, etc. There's also planning that goes into what does it look like for us to sell that feeling. So I think that's definitely like a big takeaway for me, is ensuring that that's something I'm thinking about strategically and then also executing on. So thank you.
That's very profound. I love the way you put that. Yes, thank you. Like you said, it's a lot of work that goes into it. It seems very easy on the front because we're already interacting with it, but like you're right, it's a lot of research development, marketing, heads, strategy, all of that, just to game the population, just to deceive the population. Uju, what's your company, by the way? What brand, product, or service are you fronting?
Service is event planning. Yeah.
Ooh, that's literally, like, even without the branding, you're actually selling a feeling. That's what it is, because walking through spaces that you create or curate, that's really what it is. That's a big one. So like how you could stand out is in the way your customers feel. Like I'm thinking, for example, if you're gonna have a consultation with somebody who wants you to plan their event, imagine going to, or I mean, I don't know if you have a space yet, but let's say you went out for a meeting and then you're serving them wine and then they're in the cushion and then everywhere is white and then you give them a portfolio, that sort of thing. And then recording out on a reel, everyone's like, oh my gosh, wow, she's probably expensive. But that's if you target like people in the higher pay grade, which I think you probably should, right? But yes, like even in your name, like the way you communicate, the way you post. Where are you located, by the way? What country?
I'm in Canada. I'm in Ottawa.
Beautiful. Yes, I don't know. I can tell you why I said beautiful offline, but
Okay.
like the people you serve, like that's a big opportunity there. So I mean, if you have any questions at any point, please shoot me a text, email, DM. I'd love to talk about that. That's an exciting field.
For
Def-
sure. Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. And then Adora says in the chat here, I'm rebranding, so I realized that I need to make the branding more tailored to the target audience because it's very niche. I also need to do market research to see how needed the product is, to see if I need to expand and add products to my inventory. Exactly. Research is key. Research is key. Even when you're taking out a brand, for example, I have a friend who just got a 1.2 million funding on her nonprofit, not nonprofit, what am I saying, on her company. And something that's interesting is she only had one use case at the time that she was pitching it to investors. But the interesting thing is they believed in it because she had data. Data is key. You have to be able to prove that there's a need for the product. It's going to help you make the best decisions for yourself. Because I have been in a lot of rooms with people who believe so strong in whatever it is that they're working on, but they don't know if other people actually need it. And so you find that they're putting a lot of effort, they're putting a lot of time and money into developing this thing. When if they had just done the research like Adora is talking about, they will have realized like, yeah, the market is too slow. By the time you punch in the numbers of the effort that it would take to create this thing, it's not going to be worth it at the end. So yeah, that's very big. Thank you for sharing. And then Femi says, I didn't know I was competing with AI. You better know. You better know. My last album cover, I didn't even design it myself. I used what's the name of the AI integration on Canva? And it's so beautiful. I felt threatened, but also relieved because it reduced the time that I had to work on it. But yes, you are competing with AI. So you have to be able to stand out. I mean, a very easy way to distinguish oneself with AI is the customer service. You can sell the exceptional customer, human, feeling centric, experience you can offer your clients that AI can't. So, okay, yeah, it's fast and everything, but is it going to understand you? Is it going to really know, the depth of what it is that you want to produce? I can offer that because I'm a human being, So that's the way that you can just an easy way to, separate yourself from the competitors. All right, we can take one more before we close out for the day. I'm so excited. Stuff like this excites me. It's like tickling me just talking about it and thinking about it. All right, I think we are done. Thank you all so much once again for availing your time to attend this. I sincerely hope everyone has taken away something practical. Please shout me out. And I hope to see you at the next one. And if at any point in time, like I said earlier, if you have any questions, this is my bread and butter. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'm very interested. I'll book a meeting with you at my earliest convenience so we can talk more about your actual brand. Thank you so much. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you, P-Dubs.